San Francisco's progressive property tax house of horrors. What's that look like? Let's get into it. Here we go. I just love the notion of house of horrors. This is not going to be pretty. This is, and this is not just San Francisco. This is all over the United States, but in big cities that have big city problems, you're going to see it even more so. Because you've got street conditions that due to homelessness and drugs, you can't really, what are you going to do? Where are you going to put all the homeless people? Are you just going to put them on an island? No, you're kind of stuck with them. You're stuck with the drug issue and you're stuck with the homeless folks. So if a property is located in that area, and that's why I want to play this video for you. This video is from about I think a year ago at the time of the sale of this building. Here we go.
Francisco office tower that was once the home of several businesses, but it just sold at an eye-popping discount. The new owner of the building bought it at 90% off the price it sold for in 2016. It's just one of the signs the city is still struggling with massive office vacancies downtown. But as NBC Bay Area's
keep in mind, this is a year ago, and it's still ongoing. And we're going to look at some other properties that have sold as well that are massively discounted because this is what it takes to get a buyer in there. Nobody wants them. They're like, tenderloin? I think not.
𝗪𝗡𝗔𝗠𝗧𝗏 Quintana reports there's a sign a turnaround may be coming.
Maybe.
At the corner of Market and 6th Streets is the historic 𝗪𝗥𝗘𝗠𝗜𝗨𝗪 building. Right now it's empty with a large for lease sign posted over the first floor entrance. Just a few years ago, this was a bustling office space. But today, the sale price of this tower is a surprise for people who live and work nearby. It used to be valued at $62 million. And they just sold it for $6.5 million.
Dang, that's cool. That's all right.
Big discount, right?
Now, for most people, when you hit them up with commercial sales prices, 60 to $6 million, who cares, right? It's like, why are you even telling me? I don't really care what a commercial building sells for. But if you're in real estate, you recognize that, that reduction in value is also a reduction in tax revenue, right? So hitting people up on the street, hey, what do you think? Okay.
Yeah, sure is. Discount.
Whoa. That's quite a significant drop.
When it was first built in 1908, it made headlines as one of the finest towers in San Francisco. Today, it's making headlines for different reasons. It sits just across the street from the Golden Gate Theater, but it's also on the edge of the Tenderloin neighborhood and smack dab in the middle of
oh, yeah. And there is the progressive part of San Francisco's House of Horrors. Office complexes have emptied out all across the United States, right? I mean, they just have. Oh, work from home forever. Greatest thing ever. And then, you got to get your asses back in there because we need the revenue from all the businesses that aren't doing any business. So let's get going, guys and gals. And then you've got slump over boy here who's whacked out of his mind on 𝗪𝗏𝗘 because San Francisco said, hey man, drugs are great, live on the streets, anything goes, criminal activity to feed your addiction, you betcha, we support you. No, now they're trying to work that back. But in the meantime, you've got things like property values that have absolutely plummeted. And with them, tax revenue.
The Market and 6th Street corridor, an area the city has been battling to make safer.
Let me tell you something, man. This is a movie in process. I'm dead serious. It's just amazing the things that go on throughout the day.
The deeply discounted price of this tower could eventually be an opportunity for the new owner, but it also displays the dramatic difference in pricing in San Francisco real estate overall. For the same price of this 15-floor tower with about 4,000 feet of office space per floor, someone can buy this 3-story, 4,300 square foot home on Union Street near Russian Hill. Or for a couple million more, and just 3 blocks away on Market Street, a 2-story penthouse in the luxurious Four Seasons building. For commercial real estate experts, the bargain price of the Hughes building and others in downtown may also represent a sign of a turnaround for the city.
I think we've reached a bottom as it relates to
No.
office
Nope.
in San Francisco. and there's growing conviction of a recovery story.
Alexander Quintex recently bought commercial property at Jones Lang LaSalle in San Francisco. He says interest in leasing of commercial properties in the city have been on the upswing over the last year. That includes companies looking to relocate from other parts of the U.S. and from other countries. What's not yet clear is how long a rebound will take.
And we're still working on that rebound. And that rebound is going to take a long time, especially when you've got external factors like the Tenderloin. You got the Tenderloin, and if you're not familiar with the Tenderloin, it's an area where San Francisco has just basically dropped off its homeless, dropped off its mentally insane, and said, here you go. How about it? And criminals it's insanity, right? Just pure insanity. It's a big area of San Francisco that has just basically been, overrun with whacked out homeless folks on drugs, battling mental issues and criminals. So, hey, you want to buy a discounted commercial building? Let's sign you up. Roughly 2 years ago, San Francisco Examiner reported a relatively new trend that was on the upswing in the city. People appealing their property tax assessments. With record vacancies in San Francisco's office buildings and house prices down, number of property owners appealing to lower their property taxes has skyrocketed to the highest level since the Great Recession year of 2009. Number of appeals challenging city property assessments, the dollar amount a city says a property is worth, and the basis for calculating taxes owed shot up more than 2.5 times in the recent initial filing period. So you've got way more people. You've got 7,500 people up from 2,800 people that are appealing their taxes. They're saying to the assessor, hey, based on these comparable sales, we believe our property is worth less. And that goes for both residential and commercial. That trend has continued to climb, and now the city is in a bit of a bind. Oof. What are we going to pay our bills with? There are so many appeals pending that the city, it may not be able to resolve them before a state-mandated deadline. And here's the catch. If the Assessment Appeals Board doesn't resolve each appeal in time, it automatically loses and has to accept whatever reduction the taxpayer is asking for. I think my home is worth zero. My home has zero value because of the assessor's going to come back. You make an offer. Hey, I think my house is worth this, $100,000, and it's in $1 million neighborhood. It's worth $100,000 because of I'm on a fault line. I'm on a busy street. I back to the freeway. I'm next to the Tenderloin. Any of those things would be valid reasons, but you're probably not going to get zero. But if San Francisco can't get their rear end gear covering all these tax appeals, then maybe, goes to zero. The number of property appeals has gone from a trickle to a tidal wave. Numbers have gone through the roof. It's a house of horrors administratively, said Peter, the San Francisco property tax appeal and former member of the appeals board. The city is dealing with this huge backlog, but individuals are paying the price. If the agency fails to evaluate an appeal within 2 years and it surrenders to default to the taxpayer's opinion of the property's value, my house is worth zero. Why wouldn't you go in with that? Part of the problem is that it's not just the thousands of appeals to reduce property taxes the city has relied on, behind on. The same office is also responsible for dealing with new assessments every time a property sells. In most cases, the property's assessed value goes up when that happens because the market is going up. But the city has a backlog of 14,000 accessible events going back to the pandemic. So if they try to work through things in chronological order, then they're going to wind up losing $1 billion as the appeals to lower taxes extend beyond the 2-year deadline. So they've got all this current stuff and backlog stuff, and then they've got the future stuff. And they are just basically damned at every single point that they go to because property values have dropped dramatically, 90%. And property valuations go over a rolling period, typically like a 2-3 year rolling period. I don't know what San Francisco's is, but most states, most municipalities, they're kind of the same. They've got some of the same threads of how they, evaluate people's homes, and they determine, millage rate, and then you got taxes on top of that. Let's vote this tax in. Often owners put an unrealistically low value, sometimes even zero, like we talked about, for their property as a starting point for the appeal. Problem is that the assessor's office doesn't hit the 2-year timeline. That's what goes on the books. City estimates that it will be forced to refund more than $1 billion if it fails to meet its deadlines. Oh, that's not good. And then moving forward, how do you move those taxes back up? What are you going to use for comps? Hey, market's really turned around here, guys. No, it's not going to happen that fast. I think as far as the purchase market goes, I know the rental market is shoring up. But those are for better quality buildings. Anything that's got an issue like the Tenderloin proximity is going to have problems, or if it needs major renovation to entice a tenant, because tenants have lots and lots of options. You've probably got 50% vacancy if you're really looking at numbers, maybe more than that. Actual vacancy of buildings. Half the buildings in San Fran are empty. Maybe some of them have spaces that are tied up, with tenants, but the tenants aren't there. They're businesses, and they sent everybody home. Well, we were told we could work from home forever because it was going to be the greatest thing ever. And then that just didn't materialize. It's like, we need you back here in the office. And everybody got that. Well, I'm going home. Oh, I'm going here. Everybody's got that story of, well, I know a guy at Amazon who was told he could work remotely forever, go buy a house wherever he wanted. He moved to Montana. Now they want him back in Seattle. Those people got fired from Amazon heavily. 3-4 weeks ago? Had that one big Monday firing. Guys, you're all fired. Really bad news is that even if the city manages to see all these deadlines by focusing on the request to lower taxes first, it's still going to wind up refunding a lot of money. All those empty buildings throughout the city mean the assessed value of property in the city is just not what it used to be. So there's multiple different angles, I guess, is bottom line here. What I want you to take away from this podcast is the city's going to get hit from multiple different angles, and it's going to be a long-term bleed out because typically values have gone up. Now they're going the other way. So now you're going to have to battle property owners, and you're going to have to battle comparable sales that prove 90% off. Oof. I mean, you've basically taken a big, 15 stories, 4,000 square feet a pop, and said, this thing is worth not very much. $6 million? I mean, that is, it's the price of a nice, penthouse in a decent condo project. And yet you're picking up how many thousands of square feet in commercial space? Granted, you got to fight off the whacked out homeless on drugs at the street level. But hey, beyond that, world's your oyster, right? You're going to have a team of security guards out front because it ain't going to be pretty. But even if the agency does process all of these appeals we're talking about within the 2-year limit, the amount the city expects to refund is sizable. The Comptroller's Office has projected that San Francisco will need to refund between $105 and $189 million annually for 6 fiscal years, totaling around $817 million. So what we're talking about is you've had a massive valuation drop, right? 90% drop in value for the one property we saw the building on. But that doesn't mean your taxes that would have gone to the city dropped by 90%, right? It's on a relational basis. So the amount that goes to the city, because it's always such a small fraction relative to the value, is going to be less. But $817 million, those are the kind of numbers that city officials are going to be looking at because they've already got budget deficits. And now you got a situation where you have a lack of that steady income coming in that you thought you once had. And then also on top of that, you got excise tax. You're not collecting excise tax. You got something that sells for $100 million versus $10 million. 10th of the excise tax. Didn't take a genius to figure that one out, right? So a loss of 800 something million over the next 6 years is not something the city can really afford now. Mayor Daniel Lurie came up with a budget that closed on the 800 million gap that was expected to open over the next 2 years. Now, Lurie's done a good job, but he's inherited just as far as some of the homeless things that he's done, he's trying to actively arrest people for homelessness. That's not going all that well. I mean, he's got a bunch of stuff in the pipeline, but at the end of the day, he has tried to clean up some of these areas, but these problems are so widespread that, one mayor in his mayor term isn't going to have that much of a positive impact. He's going to have to work your way through it. And, when you've got this kind of stuff happening, you've got some pretty big factors that are way beyond what any mayor can actually take care of. The city won't be hiring anytime soon. Meanwhile, San Francisco is still facing a major transit problem. Under our worst case scenarios, BART would be closing at 9 p.m., trains run only once an hour, stations shut down, and 1,000 workers lose their jobs because of the income lost from taxes and all the stuff we've been talking about, right? To sum up, tax assessments are down and bordering on a crisis. Budgets are being cut, and the city's transit system is on the verge of cutting service to them in a major way. If that happens, it will feed back on the number of people heading downtown, and that in turn could lead to more closed businesses and another year where record numbers of taxpayers demand lower property assessments. No one talks about the San Francisco doom loop anymore. No, that's not true. I do, right here. I do. But what we're seeing shows those concerns haven't gone away. No, they haven't. They really haven't. Wells Fargo building in downtown San Francisco sells for 85% below pre-pandemic value. So this isn't just a one-off. And you've got these happening all day long right now. You really do. And let's see if we can find. Yeah, how about this one? I mean, we've covered this one in depth. Blue City, that's San Francisco's largest mall, now 93% vacant. I believe that's been updated to 95% vacant as value plunges $1 billion over the past decade. That is value. It's gone from 1 point something billion to 123 was the credit bid price that the two existing lenders accepted to basically take this property back, this mall, Westfield Center Mall in downtown San Francisco, from the lender so that they can sell it. Just get it off their books because they're going to lose 600 million versus whatever they get. They're already owed 600 and something million. You're not going to get any of that money back. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're going to get a fraction, but probably less than 123 or whatever it was that they took on the credit bid. But that's literally a mall selling for less than $1 billion of what it was valued for not that long ago. Not that long ago. Absolute insanity. San Francisco's struggling downtown mall has new owners. Here's what we know. This is that continuation of that story. Lenders Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase foreclosed on a more than 600 million outstanding loan tied to the 1.5 million square foot San Francisco Center Mall located on Market Street. The banks bid $134 million to formally take control of the mall. Nobody wanted it. No other bids were made at the auction for the property, which has had its value plunge by 76% between 2016 and 2022 because we had valuations, sales, and then reappraisals. So we can kind of pinpoint what happened. Representatives of real estate brokerage CBRE confirmed Wednesday that the firm has been hired to sell the largely vacant property to new owners. Do you like a slightly used, really big shopping mall? It comes with poop in the elevator. You're welcome. We've covered that as well, right? Poop in the elevator. Who doesn't want to buy a building with a whole bunch of poop in the elevator, right? Poop in the elevator. It's great. It's great. Then you've got headlines like this. Even California's iconic industries are cutting back in this sluggish economy. California's got some of the highest inflation out there. It's got some of the greatest levels of poverty, and gas prices have finally come down a little bit. But you've got a closure of one of two big refineries in California that are going to constrict the gasoline supply by like 17.5%, 18%. And then, gas prices will go up. It's one of those things where, the overall picture for the real estate in San Francisco, especially commercial, is not pretty. And then you layer on top all of that, all the businesses that have left San Francisco, gone elsewhere, the population that has left California. That's why, and gone to a Texas or gone to a Florida. And those areas have benefited from population. And that's why Gavin Newsom is working so hard at redistricting the state of California to eke out seats that have basically gone away to other states because people can't afford California, and businesses don't necessarily want to have, massive amounts of real estate. Now, the one thing I would say in favor of San Francisco at this point is that they've got kind of a built-in industry in AI. All the AI companies are already there based on that tech. So you're going to see some backfill happen of their commercial with the AI. Is it enough, though, to offset what we see here? No, it's not, because there's so much space to be taken down. Is it going to have a positive impact on valuations? Yes, eventually it will, but you're going to have to get through layer after layer after layer of properties that are vacant, that need renovation, that need help, that the owners have basically defaulted on. You're going to have to get through literally hundreds of those to get to a point where you've got ownership that's got a little bit of money in their pocket and they can make moves that will make the properties desirable again. And then people will be willing to rent those units again. And then you start to get back on top. That ultimately breaks down as if you walk up to a building and there's a whacked out homeless dude with no shirt on, and nope, there comes his pants, and he's taking a big number 2 near the front door of said complex, 15 stories, 4,000 square feet a level. If you're walking up to a building and you see that and you're like, wow. And this isn't uncommon in California, right? This isn't uncommon in San Francisco. It's not uncommon in LA just to have somebody take a big dookie at the, front steps of a building, because that's what they do. They shoot up a little meth and then they got to go, and then they just, wherever they happen to be. And if they're in front of your building, sorry, guys. So that's where the whole progressive ideology kind of makes it a little bit trickier to unload some of these properties, because you're not in areas where it's conducive to have, your tenants, future businesses coming in, and just avoid the street level at all costs. Don't go outside, people. Go from your parked garage and your locked garage up to your floor level and then down, and then get the heck out, right? That's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. The reason you're in downtown is you want people to be able to walk around and buy from the little corner vendor, whatever it is. But if you're close to a bad area, like in downtown Seattle, downtown Portland, the Tenderloin in San Fran, it's going to be just that much harder to overcome all of these hurdles of you've basically got the property market chasing itself downward until it finds that bottom. I do not believe we are there yet. I think we are getting closer. But how much more can you lose beyond 90%, right? How much more can you lose? Well, you might say 10, because that would be the correct answer. But it's always got land value, right? It's always got land value. So when something drops by 90%, you are well beyond cutting into that land value, whatever that existing land value is. This stuff is being moved for way less than land value, because that's always a component of value. And there's no way you're whacking 90% of value off, and now you've got something that's, that site at $6 million. Okay. Whatever those numbers are. with the existing building. It's some wild, wild stuff, and we have never seen it this bad before. We have never seen these numbers before. Just didn't even happen during the Great Depression. 1929. Didn't even happen then this badly. And part of that's because businesses still worked in an office, right? We had this whole, yeah, you guys all go home and work. It's the greatest thing ever, right? Work from home. And I know a lot of people that loved working from home. It really worked with their lifestyle. But now we've got an issue where the mayors are like, oh, yeah, our revenues are way down. We need to get more people in here because we need all the people to contribute and spend money and go out in their lunch hour and go out in their coffee break and buy coffee at Starbucks. Oh, wait a minute. We're protesting Starbucks, right? My neck, my back, my paycheck is lack. It's an actual protest chant from Starbucks. Seattle's mayor literally came out and said, you do not buy from Starbucks. It's one of the biggest businesses in Seattle. We're absolutely mental here. Well, and San Francisco is too. But I think San Francisco, they've got a different set of constraints that they're working on with their commercial real estate market. And the focal point is on San Francisco because it's had such a massive, massive drop. And then how does that equate to its future tax revenue coming in? That's the part that's going to be really interesting to kind of mark. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for joining. Bye for now.